Whether you're fighting an army of bad guys or just one demon, you need to know which movies you need to see or skip, and that new episode starts right now.
See it or skip it. See it or skip it. See it or skip it.
Welcome to another episode of See It or Skip It. I'm your host Patrick, and today we're going to talk about a film that honestly should have come out back in 2019. This is Monkey Man, starring, directed, and written by Dev Patel, who plays an anonymous young man who's unleashing a campaign of vengeance and violence against corrupt leaders who murdered his mom and continue to systematically victimize the poor and powerless. We were able to screen this yesterday, and I have to say, with a packed theater, this ended up being a pretty fun movie to watch for anybody that loves that John Wick style of fighting. There's so much to say about this movie as far as the behind-the-scenes stuff, what went wrong, that the movie was shelved by Netflix for a very long time, eventually found its way back to Dev Patel, and with Jordan Peele being the new producer for this, it really ends up being one of the funnest fighting movies that we're probably going to see in theaters this year. The big thing to praise this movie for is that fighting. It's really a showcase for Dev Patel and for this fighting style that he's wanting to bring in. They reference John Wick in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, but this isn't really gun-fu like what Keanu Reeves is doing with guns and handheld weaponry. This is more whatever is within your reach. It's a pot, if it's a thing of hot sauce, his teeth, he's using whatever he can to fight somebody, and it's so violent and brutal looking, it's fantastic to watch. I also really love the cinematography of India, the way the landscapes look, the way the city looks, whether you're going in the rich part or the poor part. They're things that we haven't really seen showcased in a fighting style movie like this, and I think that cinematography was really well done. And I love Dev Patel as a leading actor. He can do no wrong in my mind with The Green Knight, Slumdog Millionaire, and if you haven't seen him in The Newsroom, that's a very underrated performance by him. He again shows us how great he can be in a leading role, and while his character might not have a lot to say, he has a lot to show with his fists. There are a few supporting characters in the film, but I don't necessarily think they were built up too much in this movie. In fact, much more than anything, it's just a showcase of action, fighting, and Dev Patel, and that's about it. The story delves a little bit into this main character's backstory, but it doesn't do a lot for me as far as any of the supporting characters, the villains, anybody in the film that you'd like to learn more about, or maybe even have just a few simple lines of dialogue between Dev Patel and them, just not really anywhere to be found. The ending could have been wrapped up a little better, but at the end of the day, this is something that you want to go see if you're looking for some good fighting, some good fun rebel rousing when it comes between Dev Patel and all of these stunt people that he's fighting alongside. I think it's a great movie, definitely one that you should check out, and I'm giving it a see it. Next up, we have a prequel to a horror franchise. Man, that's never happened before, right? This is The First Omen. This is the prequel to the 1970s The Omen with Richard Donner, and can we stop doing this? Can we just stop making these horror prequels? Because I don't know who this is for and who is getting this invested in these prequel horror films. The first half of the movie is actually pretty well done. I think it set up a lot of the good horror. I loved the environment, I loved the atmosphere, the tension building, and some really disturbing and horrifying imagery is showcased through the entire movie. It's pretty bold of the studio to actually go forward and do some of the stuff they did in this movie, because I really thought we were only going to see some of this with films like Immaculate, which, funny enough, very similar to The First Omen in many ways. That being said, if you haven't watched any of these Omen films and you want to go see this for the first time in theaters, I don't think a lot of it is going to go over your head up until that second act and really the last part of the movie, where they spend the entire time just setting up to get to the first Omen, which kind of ruined the whole thing. There's going to be some offensive stuff in this, especially if you're faith-based, that you're just not going to want to see. So I would skip it and avoid it in that case, because again, it falls into every single prequel trope where the last part of the film is completely unsurprising, because now any surprise has to be undone that they've done in the first act to build to what you already know is coming. They're bringing in characters, they're mentioning names that you're supposed to go, oh, that's from the first movie. And really, we've seen this so many times that now I don't know if we can keep doing this. It really fails to give us anything unique towards the end of the film, or anything interesting that sets it apart from the other Omen films. I do think the main character, Sister Margaret, was played very well. I think she had a lot of good body horror moments. I think she did a lot of good stuff with her character, interacting with one of the girls that they think could possibly be bringing about the Antichrist. But at the end of the day, there can only be so many surprises in a prequel film, especially a prequel horror movie. If you're going in interested to see what they plan to do, or if they're going to set up any prequel sequels, now that's a fun idea, a prequel sequel. Or you're looking to see how they tie it into the original Omen, then I guess you can check this out. But for me, it's probably a skip it. And to wrap up this episode, we have Girl State. This is on Apple TV Plus, and this is a documentary that's kind of a sibling to Boy State. If you saw that a couple years back, it debuted at Sundance. This one also debuted at Sundance, and it's a look at a large group of girls who are trying to build their own government, how they're able to campaign and lobby to be on a Supreme Court that they're making themselves. But what's fascinating about Girl State is that it's taking place during the time where the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and it's taking place at the same time as the Boy State is also happening on the same campus, which had never been done before in the history of this organization's time. I love that the directors chose to take the approach of following multiple girls on their journeys, through their wins, through their losses, and through what they're learning in this camp. There's lots of storylines and lots of different perspectives that I think are really cool and interesting to be delved into. I think the women involved in this are wonderful. They do so many good things in the film, and you can see where even if they struggle with something or they don't get something that they were fighting for, they're finding something else to put all of their energy into. And seeing that positivity, especially when it comes to youth, is just so refreshing, especially in a political landscape like today, where I don't think anybody's talking anymore, and I don't know. That's your plug for Inside Utah Politics. It's emotional, it's heartfelt, there's so much that you will love with this movie, and I'm definitely giving it a see it. I also had a chance to be able to talk with the directors of Girl State and some of the women that were featured in the film. Take a look. I wanted to ask first, since this premiered at Sundance and we're in Utah, first with Emily, what was it like seeing this premiere at Sundance for the first time with an audience?
Oh, for sure. Watching Girls State on the big screen for the first time was such a different experience than watching the rough cut. And watching it there at Sundance and hearing the audience react to different things, it was surreal because some things I wouldn't have necessarily laughed at the time, that the audience reacted differently than I might personally have too. So it's just interesting. Everything's always so much more emotional too on the big screen with a live audience, and it was just an amazing experience.
Well, Anesha, you were incredible in it. You got a lot of audience reactions when I was in the screening. What did you feel like after you had walked out of the theater?
The audience reaction was just incredible. I could not in a million years have anticipated that. I there was we went to an event afterwards and there was a South Asian woman who came up to me and we had this conversation where she thanked me for the South Asian representation and told me about her daughters who she wanted to watch that. And that was just, even thinking about it makes me emotional. I never in a million years thought that my life or just what was just one week for me could impact another person that strongly.
Well, and Cecilia, was it more helpful or distracting when you were doing all of the stuff at Girl State with cameras in your face basically the entire time?
Actually, I started being followed halfway through the week. So for the
Okay.
first couple of days, I was just kind of normal, just hanging around. And then I think after I kind of gave my speech, then I got followed more. So I think it definitely changed the experience, but the whole time I just remember thinking it was super cool. Like I don't remember any having like any negative feelings towards the cameras. I just kind of thought like this is definitely like the craziest experience I've ever had.
Well, and you all were so great with camera. It felt like you guys were naturals. Like when the camera was on you, it really, there was nothing that seemed like there was like stage fright or anything. With regards to like the politics and after leaving Girl State Faith, what was it that, if there's anything that you took away after leaving Girl State that maybe you've used in your day-to-day life now?
Yeah, so before going to Girls State, the program, I didn't really know much about local or county governments and really even like the full state government operations within Missouri. And so becoming familiar with that really helped me understand politics in Missouri more and exactly how I can get involved within Missouri politics. How important I guess citizen petitions are as well. Obviously, Missouri has a big citizen petition right now with abortion rights. And so being able to become more knowledgeable about how politics functions in that manner was super important post film.
And this is a question for all of you. Over at our station, we're doing every week a Remarkable Women segment. And we can start with you, Emily. If you were to define the word remarkable women, what would you define it as?
Ooh, that's a big one. But I would say that a remarkable woman, or remarkable woman, is a woman.
I think a remarkable woman is someone who is constantly trying to not only like improve themselves, but achieve things, make a difference in whatever way, whatever scale that they want to, in any way, shape, or form.
I think it's just a woman who lives her life the way she wants to. I think there's so many ways to be a remarkable woman.
A remarkable woman to me is somebody who is successful in her own right. It doesn't matter if she is pursuing public office or if she's a veterinarian.
Who is not afraid to stick with her guns, go with her gut, and be ambitious.
It's just living your life how you choose to live your life.
I think a remarkable woman is somebody who has achieved and is doing good in the world.
Well, that about does it for this week. Make sure that you go to abc4.com, click the shows tab, and click See It or Skip It to check out more reviews, news, and interviews. Once again, I'm your host, Patrick Beatty. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, and I will see you at the next review.
See it or skip it. See it or skip it. See it or skip it.